Episode 11. The Watchers. Marcus didn't sleep. He sat in the darkness of his apartment, back against the wall beside the window, watching the street below through a gap in the curtain. The black sedan was still there, parked under the broken streetlight where shadows pooled thickest. Two men inside, their cigarettes glowing orange every few minutes like predator eyes in the dark. They weren't even trying to hide anymore. The phone call had changed everything. Someone knew about his meeting with Gerald Hutchins. Someone had listened to their conversation, heard their plans, turned their trap into a counter-trap. Marcus's father had been careful for 20 years, and it had still gotten him killed. Marcus had been careful for 1 week, and he'd already led the Delucas straight to everyone he cared about. He thought about Robert and Diane in their hospital beds, about Frank in his cluttered apartment, about Gerald Hutchins at the Times building. All of them exposed now because Marcus had trusted a phone line, because he'd been naive enough to think the Delucas wouldn't be listening. The question was, how much did they know? Marcus replayed the call in his mind, analyzing every word. The man had known about his father's evidence, about the cassette tape, about the Wednesday night deadline, but he hadn't mentioned Gerald Hutchins by name, hadn't mentioned Frank, hadn't mentioned the plan to document current criminal activity. Maybe they'd only heard Marcus's side of the conversation. Or maybe they were playing their own game, revealing only enough to scare him into compliance. Either way, Marcus couldn't use his phone again. Couldn't go to Frank's apartment. If they were watching him, they'd follow. Couldn't contact Hutchins through any traceable channel. He was isolated, under surveillance, with a deadline ticking toward Wednesday night. His father's voice echoed from the cassette tape. "I'm not brave. I'm just a man who saw something he can't unsee." Marcus understood that now. Once you knew the truth, you couldn't unknow it. Once you held evidence of murder and corruption, you couldn't just give it back and pretend it never existed. The Delucas had killed his father for refusing to be silent. They'd do the same to Marcus, unless he found a way to make silence more dangerous than exposure. When dawn finally broke, gray and cold through the November morning, Marcus had a plan. It wasn't a good plan. It required luck and timing and several things going right that probably wouldn't, but it was better than sitting in his apartment, waiting for Wednesday night. He showered, dressed in his work clothes, and made coffee. Normal morning routine. The men in the sedan would expect him to go to the print shop, just like yesterday. They'd follow him, watch him work, follow him home. As long as he stayed predictable, they'd stay passive. But Marcus had no intention of being predictable. At 7:30, he left his apartment with his canvas bag slung over his shoulder. The notebook and cassette tape were hidden in a new location now. Wrapped in plastic, tucked inside the toilet tank, the access panel carefully replaced. The bag contained only his lunch, a sketchbook, and the morning paper. Nothing incriminating, nothing worth killing for. The sedan's engine started as Marcus reached the sidewalk. He didn't look at it directly, just walked toward the subway station at his usual pace. Behind him, he heard the car pull away from the curb, following at a distance. The morning commute was thick with workers heading to Manhattan. Marcus joined the crowd descending into the subway station, fishing tokens from his pocket. The platform was packed. Men in suits reading newspapers, women in secretarial dresses clutching handbags, teenagers heading to school. Marcus positioned himself in the middle of the crowd, just another anonymous commuter. When the train arrived, he waited until the last possible second, then squeezed through the closing doors. Through the window, he glimpsed one of the Deluca men on the platform, pushing through the crowd, reaching the train just as it pulled away. The man's face twisted with frustration, and he turned to run for the stairs, probably heading for street level to radio his partner. Marcus had maybe 5 minutes before they repositioned. He rode 3 stops, got off at 149th Street, and immediately crossed to the opposite platform. The next train arrived within 2 minutes. Pure luck, and Marcus took it back south, watching the stations blur past. At 138th Street, he exited again, climbed to street level, and started walking. The print shop was 10 blocks away, but Marcus turned in the opposite direction. The Bronx was waking up around him. Store owners raised metal gates, revealing shop windows filled with everything from fresh bread to used furniture. Street vendors set up carts selling coffee and newspapers. A bus rumbled past, belching diesel exhaust. Marcus kept his head down, moving with purpose but not panic, just another worker heading to another job. He found a payphone outside a bodega on 145th Street. The morning sun was fully up now, weak light filtering through gray clouds. Marcus fed coins into the slot and dialed the number Gerald Hutchins had given him. Not the Times switchboard, but a direct line to Hutchins's desk. 2 rings. 3. Hutchins. It's Marcus Chen. Don't say my name. A pause. Then, I'm listening. They know. Someone was listening to our call yesterday. They called my apartment last night, demanded I bring the evidence to Pier 47 Wednesday night at 9. Marcus heard papers rustling, the scratch of a pen. Hutchins was taking notes, already thinking like a journalist documenting a story. Your line or mine? I don't know. Maybe both. They're watching my building, followed me this morning. I lost them, but they'll find me again. Where are you now? Payphone on 145th. I can't go back to my apartment, can't use my phone. They've isolated me. Another pause. Marcus could almost hear Hutchins thinking, calculating angles and risks. The fact they gave you a deadline means they don't have the evidence yet, Hutchins said finally. They're trying to force a controlled exchange, but if they wanted you dead, you'd already be dead. They need something from you. They need the evidence back, and they need to know who else has seen it. Exactly, which means Wednesday night isn't an execution, it's an interrogation. They'll take the evidence, ask questions, and then decide what to do with you based on your answers. Marcus's grip tightened on the phone. That's not comforting. It's not meant to be, but it gives us leverage. They don't know about me yet, or they'd have mentioned it in the call. They don't know about Frank. They're fishing, trying to assess how much trouble they're in. So what do? You need to disappear until Wednesday, completely off their radar. No apartment, no print shop, no patterns they can predict. Can you do that? Marcus thought about his $23, now down to maybe 15 after subway tokens and phone calls. Thought about the streets of the Bronx in November, the cold nights ahead, the impossibility of staying invisible for 3 days with no money and no shelter. I'll figure it out, he said. There's a church on 152nd Street, St. Augustine's. Father Michael runs a shelter in the basement. He's good people. Helped me with a story on housing conditions last year. Tell him I sent you. Tell him you need a place to stay. Don't tell him why. He won't ask questions. Marcus memorized the address. And then what? I'm working on something. Give me until Wednesday morning. Don't contact me. Don't contact Frank. Don't contact anyone. Just stay hidden and stay safe. Can you do that? Do I have a choice? No, Hutchins said, and there was something almost sympathetic in his voice. Your father didn't have a choice either, once he witnessed what he witnessed. That's the thing about truth. It doesn't care whether you're ready for it. Marcus hung up and stood there for a moment, watching traffic pass on 145th Street. Somewhere in the Bronx, 2 Delucas enforcers were searching for him, radioing back to whoever gave them orders, recalculating their surveillance strategy. Somewhere in Manhattan, Gerald Hutchins was planning something that might save Marcus's life or might get them both killed. And somewhere in the past, 20 years gone but still bleeding into the present, James Chen had made the same choice Marcus was making now. To run, to hide, to survive long enough to make the truth matter. Marcus started walking toward 152nd Street. St. Augustine's was a small brick church wedged between tenement buildings, its facade blackened by decades of city soot. A hand-painted sign advertised Sunday services in English and Spanish. The main doors were locked, but a side entrance led to a basement stairwell. Marcus descended into fluorescent-lit dimness. The basement was set up as a community space, folding tables and chairs, a kitchen area with industrial appliances, bulletin boards covered with notices about job opportunities and housing assistance. A few men sat at the tables, drinking coffee from styrofoam cups, reading newspapers, or just staring into space with the hollow-eyed look of people who'd run out of places to go. A priest emerged from the kitchen, carrying a pot of coffee. He was maybe 40, with thinning brown hair and the soft build of someone who spent more time listening than exercising. His collar was slightly crooked, his sweater worn at the elbows. Help you, son? Father Michael? That's me. Gerald Hutchins sent me. He said you might have space for someone who needs a place to stay for a few days. Father Michael's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Recognition, maybe, or just the practiced neutrality of someone who'd heard every kind of story. Gerald's a good man. Any friend of his is welcome here. He gestured to the tables. We serve breakfast at 8, dinner at 6. Cots are set up in the back room at night. Rules are simple. No drinking, no drugs, no fighting, no questions. You need anything else? Just a place to think. We've got plenty of that. Father Michael poured a cup of coffee and handed it to Marcus. You look like you've been up all night. Something like that. Well, you're safe here. Whatever you're running from, it stops at that door. That's the deal. Marcus wrapped his hands around the warm cup, felt some of the tension drain from his shoulders. For the first time since the phone call, he allowed himself to breathe. Thank you, Father. Don't thank me yet. Coffee's terrible. It was terrible. Marcus drank it anyway. He spent Monday in the basement of St. Augustine's, sitting at a corner table with his sketchbook, pretending to draw while actually thinking through every possible scenario for Wednesday night. The other men in the shelter ignored him, lost in their own problems. Father Michael moved between kitchen and tables, refilling coffee, offering quiet conversation to those who wanted it, respecting the silence of those who didn't. Around noon, a young woman arrived with bags of donated food, day-old bread from a bakery, bruised vegetables from a market, canned goods from somewhere. She had warm brown skin and wore her hair in a natural afro, moved with the efficient grace of someone used to hard work. Father Michael introduced her as Teresa, his volunteer coordinator. You're new? She said to Marcus. Not quite a question. Just staying a few days. Well, if you're staying, you're helping. We don't do freeloaders here. She handed him a knife and pointed to a pile of vegetables. Those need chopping for dinner. Think you can handle that? Marcus could handle it. He spent the afternoon in the church kitchen, chopping vegetables alongside Teresa and 2 other volunteers, listening to their easy conversation about neighborhood gossip and city politics. It was strangely calming, the repetitive work, the mundane concerns of people whose biggest problem was whether the landlord would fix the heat before winter really hit. For a few hours, Marcus almost forgot about the Delucas, about Wednesday night, about the evidence hidden in his apartment, and the men hunting him through the Bronx. He was just a guy chopping vegetables in a church basement, contributing to something simple and good. But when dinner service started and the shelter filled with hungry people, Marcus saw a face that snapped him back to reality. One of the Deluca enforcers, the younger one, thick-built with a boxer's flattened nose, stood in the doorway scanning the crowd. Marcus's hand froze on the serving spoon. His first instinct was to run, but the kitchen had only one exit and it led straight past the doorway. His second instinct was to hide, but there was nowhere to go that wouldn't draw attention. The enforcer's gaze swept across the room, pausing on each face. Marcus kept his head down, ladling soup into bowls with mechanical precision, just another volunteer serving dinner. The man's eyes passed over him once, moved on, then snapped back. Recognition flared. The enforcer started forward, pushing between tables. Father Michael intercepted him. Can I help you, son? Looking for someone. Aren't we all? Father Michael's voice was mild, but he'd positioned himself directly in the man's path. Are you here for dinner? We've got plenty. I'm not hungry. Then I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to leave. This is a shelter, not a social club. People come here because they need sanctuary. I don't allow hunters in my house. The enforcer's jaw tightened. I just want to talk to someone. And I just want you to leave. Now. For a long moment, they stood facing each other. The priest with his soft build and crooked collar, the enforcer with his boxer's muscle and barely contained violence. The room had gone quiet. Everyone was watching. The enforcer glanced at Marcus one more time, committing his face to memory, then turned and left. Father Michael returned to the serving line as if nothing had happened. Soup's getting cold, he said mildly. Let's keep moving. But Marcus's hands were shaking. They'd found him. Despite losing them on the subway, despite the church's sanctuary, despite everything, they'd found him. Which meant Wednesday night at Pier 47 wasn't just a trap. It was inevitable.
Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures. Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures.